want to make more money, you might want to consider doing this. So number one is
Hold that thought for just a second, because the thing that comes before that is this graph of yours.
oh God, this is the entrepreneur life cycle. And there are 6 stages. Now, the vast majority of people get stuck on stage 3. I've made some of the biggest career mistakes at this point, and you end up living the same 6 months for 20 straight years, suffering until you learn how to break free from it.
I want to go through the whole thing.
This is gonna be awesome.
Alex Hormozi is the master of business strategy.
An artist in scaling companies into the millions.
And a leading voice in how to craft your way to success.
He's an entrepreneurial powerhouse.
Whether you're starting out or want to go from 1 million to 10 million, there are certain behaviors and actions that will increase the likelihood of success that we're going to go through. But here's the really hard truth that a lot of people don't like talking about. Entrepreneurs must be willing to make impossible choices, have the courage to be willing to be wrong, have shame by failing at things in front of people whose opinions they care about. And that fear keeps people stuck in a job and a life they don't want for years. And that was my path. I had a white-collar job, condo overlooking the city. Everything's according to plan. And I remember thinking like I didn't want to be alive because I was so afraid. But once you get over the fear, it unleashes this whole new realm of possibility of being able to do what you want. And that is when you can learn the real game of entrepreneurship, such as knowing that business ideas typically come from one of 3 Ps. And you only need one of those 3. And then there's the 4 Rs for customer success, how to learn new skills quickly, how to stand out in a competitive market, the winning strategy for 2025, and so much more.
So where shall I start? I have been forced into a bet with my team. We're about to hit 10 million subscribers on YouTube, which is our biggest milestone ever, thanks to all of you. And we want to have a massive party for the people that have worked on this show for years behind the scenes. So they said to me, Steve, for every new subscriber we get in the next 30 days, can $1 be given to our celebration fund for the entire team? And I've agreed to the bet. So if you want to say thank you to the team behind the scenes at Diary of a CEO, all you've got to do is hit the subscribe button. So actually, this is the first time I'm going to tell you not to subscribe because it might end up costing me an awful lot. Alex, if someone's just clicked on this conversation and they're considering listening for the next couple of hours, based on everything that you do for the millions of entrepreneurs that follow you, that read your books, can you tell me exactly why you believe they should stay and listen and who should stay and listen?
At acquisition.com, we scale businesses. The content that I generate, that we put out, conversations like this, helps people who are going from 0 to 1, just getting off the ground, to helping people go from 1 million to 10 million, to helping the entrepreneurs going from 10 to 100 either get there or exit along the way. And there are frameworks that cross all 3 of those that I consider both deep and wide, that help any business navigate whatever strategic decision is in front of them to get the highest potential return for their time. And so if you're listening or watching, then if one of those frameworks applies immediately to your business and allows you to pull 5 years forward in your career, I would say that's a pretty good return on time.
For the people that are at 0,
Yeah.
what is it that they're typically coming to you to help them with? So if you are one of them,
Yeah.
what is it that they want from Alex Hormozi?
I think it's, there's what they think they want and what they actually need, which are 2 different things. And so I think what they think they want is some tactic that's going to immediately help them start a business. What they typically actually need is the courage to be willing to be wrong and to be willing to have shame by failing at things in front of people whose opinions they care about. And I think that's, like, if I rewind the clock for me, it was probably one of the hardest things that I had to get over. And so I think that's why maybe my message resonates with a lot of people, is because it was so hard for me to get over. And what's interesting is basically anybody who's listening, the harder it is for you to break free of whatever kind of mental prison you've made for yourself, whether that's real or just in your head, the more compelling your story will be when you break through it, because it will resonate with even more people. For the people that it was easy, that their story doesn't have a lot of, like, I was immediately an entrepreneur. Like, I wasn't like that. I had a job when I was in high school. I had a job immediately out of college. Some people were like, I was selling lemonade out of the back of my, thing when I was 13. I didn't do any of that. School failed me. I actually was pretty good at school. I didn't have any of those issues. You know what I mean? And so I had a pretty clear career path. And so I had what many would consider, like, I had a real opportunity cost. So I had a white collar job and I had a GMAT score above Harvard's mid score. And so I had a really clear path of what my life could look like in the next 20, 30 years. And it was fairly well defined. Like, I'll go to Harvard or Stanford or one of the top business schools, and then I will either go back into management consulting or I'll go into investment banking and then eventually end up in private equity. And that would be the path, right? And then all the flowers would be set at my feet and, everyone would say, we approve of you. You're an excellent person. But when I saw the people who were 20 years ahead of me, I really didn't want their life. And then it started making me look at my life and I was like, I don't even know if I really want my life. And so the big decisions that I've made in my life, unfortunately, have almost always come at the doorstep of a parent death. And I think maybe in some ways that makes me a coward for having needed death to make decisions. And so operationalizing that has been something that has helped me move faster to make decisions that I know I need to make but don't. And so, like, the first big kind of like what felt like a death decision was I was a consultant, 22-ish years old. I had a paid for, condo that I bought overlooking the city. And I remember thinking, like, I really hope I don't wake up tomorrow. And I don't mean that to be melodramatic. I just for a period of time, I just always just like hoped every night. I was like, I just really hope I don't wake up tomorrow. Like, I just don't want to do this. And what was difficult about that was that at that time was when my father was most proud of me. Because I was doing everything that was according to plan. He could talk about, like, his son who graduated in 3 years from Vanderbilt, had the good job, like everything we're following the plan. And it was upon realizing that my ultimate expression of living out his dream was me feeling like I didn't want to be alive. And so and it took me time to get to that point to even articulate that, because obviously you never want to kind of like admit failure of like, I have really messed something up here. But I was living my life to win someone else's game. And when I realized that one of our dreams had to die, either his or mine. And when I realized that his dream must die in order for mine to live, was a statement that I kind of crystallized when I was at that point in my life. Like, I had to keep repeating that, like, his dream has to die in order for mine to live. And so to put this in perspective of like how afraid of my father's judgment I left the state and drove across the country halfway through before calling him to tell him that I was gone. And so I bring this up because I'm not trying to be dramatic here, but I'm saying that if you feel a lot of pressure, I get it. Like, I tried to leave the job that I was at to pursue just literally anything that wasn't that. Just, I wanted to start a business at some point. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I just knew that what I was doing was not the path I wanted to be on. And everybody around me wanted me to be on that path. And so I went to go be like, hey, I'm thinking about doing something else. And, it would always be that, don't, later, like everything's good, later. And I remember when I called my dad and I told him that, he said, understand, why don't you come home? Like, come home. Well, I didn't tell him that I was gone yet. Like, I said, hey, I want to go pursue this fitness thing. He said, cool, come over for lunch. We'll talk about it. And I was like, I'm already gone. And then obviously his tone changed a lot. And our relationship struggled for, years after that. And I also bring that up because sometimes there's this illusion that, like, you get on the Oscar stage or whatever it is, and you're like, hey, I just want to thank, my mom, my dad, my friends for always supporting me. And I can't say that. And I wish I could. And you might not be able to say that either. And I also don't think that's a reason not to do it. And so we did struggle for years after that to kind of like, because I was basically living as what was once his prodigal son, goes and takes a minimum wage job as a personal trainer at a gym, cleaning floors and stuff to learn the gym business. But that was ultimately like how I broke free, literally, physically leaving the area and, mentally. But I think that I had to accept that there was a timeline where my father would never talk to me again, and I had to be okay with that. to pursue what I wanted. And I think that when you ask the original question, what are the people from 0 to 1 really looking for? I read tons of business books at that time, but I couldn't use any of them because I was so afraid. And what's crazy is that, like, I think about it now in retrospect, and it's like, it's crazy how large the perceived monsters can appear. And Layla has this quote that I love, but it's fear is a mile wide and an inch deep. And so you look at it and it looks like this ocean, and then you take the first step and you realize you don't drown because it's like, oh, there's ground underneath of this, right?